Alright, now I figured out the bottom two. Sorry if this is a little tedious. I was just trying to do something that's fairly comprehensive and step by step, being that what I could find out there was somewhat vague and I couldn't really find anything that specifically showed exactly the steps going through this removal. And funny thing, the removal I'm just doing to get actually down onto my coolant hoses. I'm having an issue with my coolant hoses leaking, so I'm replacing all the hoses in my system, and the thermostat and throttle body coolant hoses are located underneath the intake manifold. You may be able to do it without taking it off, but I kind of wanted to get in there, check it out, and see which of the hoses was leaking. So that's the grounds for the removal, although a lot of other guys I'd imagine would be doing this to switch over to the M50 manifold for a little extra kick. Alright, so the housing and the bolts come out. That's a little neat. Too bad a step. Alright, once you get that out, just a wire. So here you can see kind of where those screws are nested down in there. Awesome. Pull it off. And kind of just let it hang. Again, just be careful. The cables controlling the throttle, you don't really want to tweak them too bad. So I just set it there and let it hang out. Oh, this guy was really handy. A little magnetized dish. You can put your stuff in. And I went through in steps, and then I would bag the bolts according to steps in stages. And that way, it would be fairly easy for me to remember what went back where. Because just putting it back together is going to be basically the reverse. But it does get to the point where there's quite a few nuts and bolts, so it does kind of help to break them down by steps. Alright, so now I'm pulling off the fuel rail cover to get access down to the fuel rail. These guys, again, I believe 10mm bolts. And then the other cover is 10mm nuts. Pretty simple, self-explanatory. You could probably even skip this step, taking this cover off. I don't think you really have to get at anything. I was just kind of taking any extra steps that I may need to take, just kind of hopefully make my life easier when I start pulling the rest of it apart. Apologize for the music. Just stuck with an old boombox. Play CDs, so this is just what I could find. But, you know, it's kind of from the car's time, so it's suiting. Alright, so here I'm just removing one of the vacuum lines. It's got a special BMW clamp. I believe you need like a special tool to take it off. I couldn't quite figure it out aside from just straight cutting it off, but there's enough leeway that it just slides off, so I think what I'm going to end up doing is replacing that with a regular steel clamp. So here, again, this is a step that you might not have to do. I'm just loosening up the wiring harness. In fact, this one I definitely don't think you have to do unless you want to cut the zip tie. But this just to kind of make it a little easier. shift the wiring that's draped over the back end of the manifold. Just makes life a little easier to have extra room in there. Yeah, I think that turned out to be an unnecessary step. Oh wait, no, I did come. Sorry, I did come and cut it. So yeah, it helps a little bit. Once you get enough leeway in it, you can kind of pry it up and set it on the knob for the windshield wiper that'll hold it out of the way. That hose right there is actually the entry for hot coolant running out of the engine block into the heater core, which I've already pulled out, so hence the unattachment. It's blocked off with a plate. Alright, so here at the end of the fuel rail, it's almost like a bicycle air nozzle. Unscrew that, and then I use the BMW screwdriver. Just poke, you see a little bit of fuel pops out, just relieving the pressure. You will spill some gas doing this, because you later on have to disconnect the fuel lines to the fuel rail. Quite a bit more during that. Oh, definitely to note on the safety side, before I started any of this, disconnected the battery, also opened the gas cap, which is recommended by pretty much all the articles I could find online, and have a fire extinguisher on hand, just in case. You never know what could happen. Alright, so here I'm loosening, there's 2 bolts holding the fuel rail down. So taking those guys off, you actually could skip this step depending on whether or not you want to pull the fuel rail and the injectors off of the manifold itself. So if you're doing the swap, you'll actually be doing a couple steps that I, in the end, skipped because I'm just taking it off to get underneath it. But yeah, it's just 2 bolts. There's also a wiring harness bracket that's held in by the front bolt, so it is nice to remove that so you can kind of shift that guy around as well. So just unhooking the wiring off the back there. There's 2 on the front end, and those you'll need to unplug. And then these guys, you'll end up snapping out. Yeah. You just kind of held it with clips. Pop them out because you're going to unhook the wiring harness from the injectors. They had these little plastic clips holding down the wiring. Just set those guys off to the side. Be careful, you won't break them, just reuse them. Alright, so here I was trying to figure out the best way to approach this because none of the articles really mentioned how to specifically get this out. I at first tried to go in through this box. You don't need to mess with this. It's kind of an irrelevant step, but they have the hooks on this side and the other side, but you can just leave it alone. You really don't need to get in there. Again, sorry if all this seems really basic, but I just spent a bunch of time trying to figure out how to do this myself, and pieced it together and figured I might as well, while doing it, document it so if someone else wants to, they can at least use some of this as reference. If you see that I'm doing anything wrong, or you have any feedback, definitely let me know. I wouldn't say it's perfect. I'm sure there's ways to do this faster as well. Alright, so here what I figured out is this plastic housing that I was previously unsnapping. It's actually attached to each of the injectors. It's got one of those little spring-loaded clips, similar to the wiring we just unplugged, and it's attached to each injector. So what you want to go through, I ended up using, again, just the screwdriver that came with the car. Small flathead worked best. And you get in there, kind of pry the clips up, and you can slide the piece off the injector. I would start at the front and work your way back and just unhook those clips. There you kind of see the top of the injector, and there up close, not the far left one, but this middle one, that's the clip. Once you pull it off, the injectors have a little green gasket that sits on the top. Be careful not to lose those. I just pulled them off. I'm going to reuse them, set them off to the side. Alright, so here, got the plastic housing off of all the injectors, and now I'm getting at the fuel line. From what I've read, it seems that the S52 and S50 have different attachments. Pelican Part article said that you would need a BMW specific tool. What I found is it's kind of just like a quick disconnect. There's a black plastic piece, the metal fuel rail comes in, then there's a black plastic piece, and then there's the hard lines for the fuel that go back into the car. The plastic piece, actually, you just squeeze it down and it disengages and allows it to pull out. So you can kind of see the fuel lines go back. This is the gas that I lost opening it. That's where you get the most spillage. There you can see the black plastic piece and the hard line. So that plastic piece you push down into the line and then it'll come out. It's kind of like pressurized air hoses with the ball bearings and the sleeve. You just slide it. Good to go.